at any rate, just wanted you to keep that in mind. So Dr. Paul Conant is here from New York State. He used to teach chemistry at St. Lawrence University in Canton, New York, and he is the co-author of this fabulous new book, The Case Against Fluoride. He'll be doing a book signing right after the event. There's some books outside there. And so we're going to go till about 8:30 or so, and then some question and answers. We have a microphone over here that I'll be addressing at around the 8:30 mark, because I know you're going to have a lot of questions. And even the people who are pro-fluoride, please ask your questions. We invite them very cordially. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Paul Conant.
Just a moment, there we go. Before I start, just to tack on from what Pam was just saying, in 1949, 1 year before the US Public Health Service endorsed fluoridation, an endorsement which took place before any trials had been completed and before any significant health studies had been published, the sugar lobby said, we need to find a way to reduce tooth decay without reducing sugar consumption. And if you go back to that graph, you see a sharp increase in sugar consumption about the time that they introduced fluoridation. And in fact, the sugar lobby then proceeded to put an enormous amount of money setting up nutrition departments, funding nutrition departments, particularly at Harvard, Michigan, Rochester. And one of the first chairmen of the nutrition department of Harvard, a gentleman called Dr. Fred Stair, went around the country and testified in Congress on the tremendous benefits of sugar as a nutrient, and described Coca-Cola as a nutritious drink, and also promoted fluoridation avidly, enthusiastically, and was the most vitriolic attacker of anybody that opposed fluoridation. A little bit of history there. So the case against water fluoridation. I hope that it's not good enough for me if you walk away with the notion that I present a strong case. I will only feel successful, and thank you very much for all coming. This is a marvelous audience. I think this is the largest audience I've spoken to on fluoride anywhere in the world. So it's not enough for me tonight for you to walk away and say, well, that man knows something about fluoride, and if only we could get him here, there, and everywhere to talk, we could end fluoridation. It's important for you to know these arguments. It's important for you to use these arguments. It's all about empowerment. Don't let them put you down. Don't let them say, we are brilliant, we have white coats, you're stupid, trust us, it's a good thing. I want you to learn these arguments. Okay. So there is a book. We've made this book as easy to read as we possibly can, but everything is documented. So if you're a scientist or want to go further, there's 80 pages of documentation. It's published by a small publisher called Chelsea Green. It's got a very good reputation in the United States. And it's written by three of us. Myself, a chemist. I specialize in environmental chemistry and toxicology at St. Lawrence. James Beck, who's an MD and PhD, formerly with the University of Calgary, and Jim led the fight against fluoridation in Calgary and got the council to vote 10-3 in February to stop fluoridation there. Speddy Micklem is a PhD from Oxford. He's a biologist. So between the three of us, we have a physicist, a chemist, and a biologist. And none of us had an axe to grind before we started researching this issue. And as you've already heard, I think, I don't get paid for doing this. This is a labor of love. I do it because, well, I'm happy to try to right a wrong here. And this is one of the things to bear in mind. I don't say that fluoridation is the biggest threat to human health. It isn't. I can think of other threats. You've heard one of them. I think obesity is probably the biggest threat to our health system imaginable. So it's not the biggest issue. But I can tell you this, it's the easiest issue to end. It's as simple to end as turning off a tap. If we have the political will, we can turn off this issue tomorrow. But to get that political will, we need a large number of people informed, educated, and organized to get that political will. And this tonight, together with the press coverage we've already had, the television, the radio, and the press media, this is fantastic. So I'm very, very hopeful that London will be another victory soon to follow Waterloo and the other towns. Now, tonight I should be talking, the first thing is that fluoridation is unethical. This is an argument that's always been there. It's the strongest argument. It's a very poor medical practice. The evidence of any benefit is extremely weak. There is no adequate margin of safety from known health effects of fluoride. Let me make that clear right from the start. There is no argument that fluoride damages health. There's no argument that fluoride is a very toxic substance. No question at all. Millions of people have had their lives ruined in India, China, Mexico, parts of Africa, where they have high natural levels of fluoride in their drinking water. The argument then is not about whether fluoride damages health, but rather, is there an adequate margin of safety between the doses which we know cause harm to bones and the brain and the endocrine system in these studies, and the doses that our population are going to receive? And is there a margin of safety sufficient to protect everybody in society? Not just the average person, but everybody. Because if you put something in the water, you've got to protect everyone. If you can't protect everyone, then you shouldn't put it in the water. Because once you put it in the water, it's going to go to everyone. Promotion of fluoridation is unprofessional and unscientific. And finally, water fluoridation support is crumbling in North America, especially in Canada. And I think that Canada is going to lead the beginning of the end of fluoridation worldwide. So fluoridation is not ethical. No government has the right to force medication on its people, especially to fight a non-contagious, non-life-threatening disease. I think you can all envisage a time maybe the government has to step in and force vaccinations on people for something. If there's an outbreak of smallpox or something, then you expect the government to rush in, and then your private individual preferences may be overridden in the benefits of saving lives. But this is not one of those cases. We don't have to force medication, fluoride on people because we're frightened of people dying. Secondly, it deprives the individuals of their right to informed consent to medication. This is a very important right that we all have as patients. If you go to the website of the American Medical Association, they spell out very, very clearly the obligations of a doctor or anybody in the medical profession has to grant patients informed consent to medication. They are required to tell you the benefits of a drug and also the side effects of the drug, and then you are expected to make up your mind whether you're going to take that drug or not. And with fluoridation, that is removed from us. And so what is happening here is a government is doing to everyone what a doctor can do to no one. No doctor could force you to take medication. No doctor could pass you a glass of fluoridated water and say, you must drink that. I'm telling you to drink that, because if they tried to do that, they could lose their license. But incredibly, we're allowing, in some cases, whole countries like Ireland and whole states, like yesterday, Arkansas voted for mandatory fluoridation, believe it or not, in this day and age. Whole states, and in your case, a whole city, to do to everyone what a doctor can do to no one. Incredible. So that's the ethical argument. It's a poor medical practice. And to an indication of how poor this medical practice is, we haven't done it with anything since. Since fluoridation started in 1945, we have not used the public water supply to deliver medicine. Or vitamins, or any nutrients, nothing. We just don't do that. all the other chemicals that we add to the water are to protect the water, to make the water safe to drink. We add chlorine to kill the bugs so we can drink the water safely. But fluoride is quite different. We're adding that to the water, simply using it as a vehicle to distribute a medicine to everybody. And it's a terrible vehicle, because whilst you can control the concentration at the waterworks, that's not the point. You can't control the dose that people get, because you can't control how much water they drink, and you can't also control how much fluoride they're getting from other sources. And it's the total amount of fluoride which can damage us. Ask any pharmacist if there's any drug in his store that you can tell a patient take as much as you like. You just can't do it. You can't do that. And whilst you're at it, ask him if there's any drug that can go to everybody, every human being in the town, to bottle-fed infants, to teenagers, to elderly people, people that are sick, people that have poor nutrition, people that have poor kidney function, people that are borderline iodine deficient. Could they all have the same drug? Absolutely not. And yet that's exactly what we do when we put it in the water. It goes to everybody, willy-nilly. Willy-nilly of their age, willy-nilly of their health status, willy-nilly of their nutritional status. Next, there's no individual supervision by a doctor. When a doctor writes you a prescription and you take it to the pharmacist and get that medicine, the understanding is he's done the best he can think of, but there is the expectation, the anticipation that the dose may be too high and you may have side effects, that you may be one of the individuals that's sensitive to that drug, and that you will go back to that doctor if that happens. Doctor, I'm feeling sick when I take this thing, and he changes it. But nobody's doing that. The doctors are not even trained in Canada to know what the side effects of fluoride might be. And yet we think as many as 1% of the population is sensitive to fluoride at low levels. They have gastrointestinal problems, they have neurological problems, they have dermatological problems, skin rashes and so on. But no doctors in Canada are trained to observe these things. So what they do is they give them all kinds of other drugs to treat these things, totally unnecessary, with their own side effects. Then you have no health agency monitoring for health effects. Health Canada has not undertaken any comprehensive, significant testing of the health of communities that are fluoridated. Basic studies have not been done. Basic monitoring has not been done. No systematic attempt has been made to measure the fluoride in people's urine to see how much fluoride they're getting. There's no check. I will go through a list of all the things which have not been investigated in Canada, and it's absolutely outrageous. And yet they turn around and say, well, we've been doing this for 50 years. We've been doing this for 60 years, and if there was any problem, we would know about it by now. Oh, no, you wouldn't know about a lot of these things unless you did the studies. And the absence of studies does not mean the absence of harm. And it's outrageous for them to assume that that is the case. Fluoride is not a nutrient. We get promoters to this day telling that people that fluoride is a nutrient. To establish that a substance is a nutrient, you have to starve the animal of that substance in its diet and demonstrate that disease accrues as a result. If you starve an animal of vitamin C, they'll get scurvy. But they've never demonstrated any disease caused by a lack of fluoride. And tooth decay, as Pam has made very clear, is not due to a lack of fluoride. It's largely due to too much sugar. Fluoride is a known toxic substance that interferes with many fundamental biochemical functions. The first opponents of fluoridation in the United States were biochemists. Biochemists who used fluoride to inhibit enzymes in their experiments. One of them was Dr. James Sumner, a Nobel Prize winner in enzyme chemistry. Since those days, when we knew that fluoride inhibited enzymes, which steer every chemical reaction in the body is steered by an enzyme. So you're asking for trouble if you put a known poison of enzymes into the body. What we also have learned since then, that fluoride interferes with G proteins, which send messages across membranes. And